All right. Okay.
Okay, good morning, Gareth. Obviously, we've chatted a brief bit beforehand, so we're not just barging into this topic straight away. But first of all, can I just ask you, are you okay with this being recorded and being shared amongst people who might benefit from this technology, like you have done?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so Gareth Wax, welcome to this particular format of interrogation. So I'd just like to ask you first of all, Gareth.
This format of waterboarding. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Hopefully, lot less painful.
Well,
So what I'd like to ask you first of all is, how did you first discover magic, the Vox technology?
yes, let's not call them magic socks. To me, that effectively takes away from any kind of sense and intelligence. Um, I'm, I think a skeptic probably doesn't put things strongly enough. I'm usually the first person to call out uh, weird and wacky woo-woo technology. Being close to a stone or appreciating something's vibrations and so on. To me, that all leaves me cold. um, so when I got chatting, and I think I was just particularly bored one day, and I was on one of these networking things, and I came across Stuart, this character here, and he was telling me that theoretically wearing socks could change my mood. So immediately I went into poo-poo mode, and I said, look, I'm an empiricist, so I like collecting information, disseminating information, and off the back of that, creating a theory, and then loosely following that theory until something else comes along to prove it different, which is largely referred to as science. So I take a scientific approach to these things, and I said, first of all, give me some evidence. And normally at this point, you get a bunch of flim flam. But Stuart said, all right. I went, okay, well, I'll take a look at that then. I looked at the evidence. I was still feeling my usual hoity-toity up on my white horse self. And so I said, and so you're telling me that some sort of weird tattoo or raised impression on some socks can somehow alter my mood? And I said, well, I'll give you that. I'll take that Pepsi challenge because I'm high functioning. Well, I think that it depends on which day of the week it is, but I'm on the autistic spectrum. Some people refer to it as neurodiverse. I think that's the current fashionable thing to call it. But I don't see the world the same way as a lot of other people do. To me, I am prone to mood swings. If things change radically, I don't like change. I find myself at odds with the world a lot of the time. I don't understand social cues. It creates great unrest and distrust inside me. And this manifests as anxiety and occasionally depression. And so I've always been looking for a way of leveling myself out. Now, most of the time, I'm right as rain and I can deal with normal humans and get on with life. But occasionally I find stuff piling on top of me, especially when, I mean, the most weirdest of things, like if I'm given to believe that something's going to happen and then that something else completely different happens, that can throw me for a loop, which you can imagine in business is not so good.
Yeah.
And personally, I mean, the worst one was my wife said we were going to have Italian food that evening, and I came back and found it had been changed to Chinese. I had an absolute paddy, which most people would say, come on, Gareth, put your big boy pants on. You can cope with things like that. No, I can't always do that.
Yeah.
So I have been looking for a long time. Now, there are lots of ways. I think CBD oil, I tried that, and it sort of vaguely helps. I mean, yes, it helps me feel, I feel less painful, but it doesn't stop so much with the increase of the anxiety. It doesn't chill me out per se. I just feel more mellow overall, but I still have the same overall reaction.
Okay.
So I said to him the immortal words of, I'll buy a pair of these socks because apparently I get what, 20 odd days, is it?
You have a money back guarantee, yeah.
Right. So I thought, knowing me, something's bound to me off during the next 20 odd days. if I'm wearing these things, and probably it will happen multiple times, I'm telling you, multiple times a week, there are things that potentially could send me off. So if I'm wearing these over a controlled period of time, say I was 2 weeks, and I don't wear them for 2 weeks, and I'll contrast and compare, thinking that, of course, it would be an open shut case. I'd see no difference whatsoever, and therefore put down any variations down to dumb luck or perhaps, the effect of psychosomosis.
Yeah, placebo. Yeah.
So I
So,
received my.
I convinced you to try the socks.
Well, you didn't really actually convince me. You didn't convince me. I convinced myself,
Okay.
and because I work by pure logic, and
Sure.
the logic was I've got no evidence except for the white papers that you pointed me to,
Sure.
and they said that using their, I don't like the word tattoo, but using whatever it is that's sewn into the sock,
Yeah.
you can change the mood, or more importantly, you can dampen down the effects of an anxiety attack before it hits. And to me, that sounded like if it was going to work, that's what I need.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need that in my life. So I got hold of a pair of socks. They turned out fairly rapidly. I think 3 days later, there I was wearing my. You can model. I haven't got. They're in the wash today. But what? Could you hold up your foot, please? Look at that.
Oh, sorry, I
Got
should have gone like
exactly
this.
those pair.
Here we go. There's my.
They're Christmas socks, would you believe? But I don't think my feet care.
No,
Right.
your
So
brain doesn't. The brain doesn't care what colour your socks are.
yeah. Well, you try telling that to my wife. Anyway, so I put on the pair of socks and thought nothing more of it. And I determined, and this is gonna, people, if this turns your stomach, be careful. I determined to wear it constantly for at least 5 days before I took them off to be washed. I know that's pushing it a bit far, but in order to give this a good straight shoot, and I actually monitored every day to monitor what my mood. So I would check my mood 3 times a day, once when I woke up in the morning, once during the middle of the day, and once just before I went to bed. And without fail, I'm telling you, my moods will swing. I do anger very well, by the way. And my mood would normally swing, usually midday, or if I'm getting tired about 4 o'clock, I would become grumpy and difficult to deal with and all the rest of it. And I thought the very best these things are going to do is I'm going to think they're going to help me. So they'll help me for the first week or so, and then I'll forget about them, and gradually the effect will taper off. And what I noticed was within about 3 days, I was just not having the episodes. It just wasn't happening. And I wasn't feeling flattened, because I remember for a while they put me on a whole bunch of antipsychotics and things like that to try and flatten me out.
Yep.
And that really did flatten me out.
Yeah.
But this, no, I wasn't flattened. I was just much more rational at a time where I normally lose it. And the classic thing was, and it happened, I think, on the Friday of that first week, was that we ordered takeout, and I was told it was going to be one thing and something else turned up. And normally, and what happened was, so my family, that's my daughter and my wife, stood back, did a sharp take of breath and watched me. And I went, yeah, I quite like this. And we got on with it. So that wasn't an empirical test, but what was good about it was I was already seeing results,
Yeah.
and other people. So it's now, how many months are we in now?
Probably about 3 months now.
Right. Now, basically, in the morning, if I wake up grumpy, Heather says, "You're going to put your socks on or what?" So here endeth the lesson. It helps me maintain a grip, where perhaps normally I would, if I don't like change, I don't like sudden change, I don't like expectations being not met. And I don't mean you said you were going to do well, you didn't do well. I mean that you said you were going to be blue, in fact you turned out to be green. That would normally throw me. When I'm not wearing my socks today, so I could easily do so, but at the moment I'm all right. They're in the wash, they're literally drying on the radiator. As soon as they're done, they're back on the feet. And I've got another pair on order, and once I've got them, I mean, look, guys, they're not cheap, but they last. And you've got to weigh up. Am I going to spend £3 on a set of socks from M&S, which will feel lovely and sweet, but will have no effect on my mood whatsoever? It might make you look prettier, but they will have no effect on your mood. Or am I going to spend 40 quid on a pair of socks that will potentially radically change your life and not alienate your wife on a daily and weekly basis?
Perfect. And one of the things that really struck me was that about 2 weeks into your trial period, we had a phone conversation, and it was quite a tense conversation. I must admit, I put the phone down from Gareth, and I had the distinct impression that he wasn't very keen. Let me put it that
No,
politely.
I wasn't being. I was just asking all the logical questions, and I was trying to force you into a corner.
Yeah. And I kept batting it back and just saying, just give it a go, give it a go, give it a go, wear them at night, and keep going, keep going, keep going. And then about a week later, we happened to be on the same online networking call, and I'd spotted Gareth's fedora, because his image is
It's my branding,
the purple fedora. So I spotted his fedora on this platform, and I thought, I'm not going to go and speak to him because he's going to rip my head off again. And then I sat at the table. He then appeared on the table, and I just took a sharp intake of breath and just went. And he came out and said lines along the line, a sentence along the lines of, "Let me tell you about these socks."
yes. And the phrase the phrase I say most often on these forums is, because as I said, I do anger very well. They make me a lot less murdery. I would, sometimes the red mist would come down, and I'd be thinking of the various different ways I could dismember the person who was driving me nuts. Whereas now I am much more akin to rationalizing and thinking either they're an idiot, move on, or I understand there may have been faults on both sides, we'll work it out. So it makes me much more likely to deal with people in a way that leads to a positive result. And to me, that's got to be a bonus. And all from a pair of bloody socks.
Exactly. And I know you come up with this phrase of being less murderous, but as far as we both know, you haven't actually murdered anybody in your life.
Yeah, well, there's a thing on the wall in front of me that says days since Gareth has attempted to murder someone. We're up to what's it, 100 and something, but the jury's out. But no, seriously, it makes me, if I'm going to coalesce, it makes me less likely to flip. So therefore, I can predict where my mood's going to go to.
Yeah.
It seems to. I don't know if it stops it. I think it slows down the build, which means that I can then use my intelligence and intellectual capacity to control it. Whereas before, it would be so fast, I would be already in the maelstrom of the anger before I got there. It chills me the flip out.
Yeah. And some of the phrases that I often use when talking about this technology to people that haven't met it already is that basically it affects the brainstem, and then it regularizes or balances the whole of the brain. So the activity in different areas of the brain become more balanced. And that's certainly the experience you're explaining to me every time you've spoken to me about it, which is fantastic.
It's not a miracle cure. What I would say is, when I'm not wearing them, I'm more liable to flash. Whereas when I'm wearing them, it seems to slow that down and it just chills me out. I wouldn't say it's a guaranteed fix, but for people like me who sometimes find they can't cope with change, find that they can't, I would say anyone who's about to move locations or is going to take on a new job or any of those sort of things where there's instant change of pressure, if you're wearing these, you're more likely to be able to cope. I would say that was just from my own personal experience.
Perfect. Gareth, thank you very much for agreeing to speak and to share your story. And I'm sure that other people will be equally moved by your experience. So, please reassure
everybody. Guys, remember, do what I did.
I've not paid.
What I did. Take a pair, try them for a month, and if it doesn't help mellow you out or stop you from flashing, send them back. Don't take my word for it. Have a go.
Yeah. And I normally say to people, as I said to Gareth at the time, why don't you take 3 pairs, because the money back guarantee anyway. So take 3 pairs, and then you can wear them day in, day out, rather than wearing the 1 pair. But again, Gareth insisted that he got the 1 pair and gave them a really good going. And
I wasn't going. I was thought it was a pile of rubbish. I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to be proved right, and that'll be the end of it, and we'll move on.
yeah.
So there you go.
And just like millions of people before you, you haven't proven that to be incorrect at all.
No, I wouldn't say what I've done is proof. I've got evidence that in a circumstance where I'd normally react when I'm wearing the socks, I'm less likely to react.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd say. And if that strikes a chord with other neurodiverse people, then let it do so. But it's no guarantee. It just seems to dampen down and slow down your flash effect.
Absolutely. And the guarantee is two guarantees. First of all, the first guarantee is you get a money back guarantee. And the second thing is it will calm down your brain. The results that individuals see is different based on their own neurology, their own physicality, and their own system.
You see, I thought that was going to be that guarantee where you got. I thought that was going to be that guarantee where you got free cake, but apparently that didn't work.
Next time we meet in person, or when we ever meet in person, I will guarantee you cake, Gareth. I'll guarantee you chocolate cake, then I'll turn it with mascarpone instead.
No, actually, do you know what? I prefer just plain Victoria sponge. Fantastic. I don't like fancy cakes. I like straight Victoria sponge, no nonsense.
Keep it simple. All right, Gareth, thank you very much for your time today, and take care.
Absolutely.